is gold is a $20 trillion asset. Bitcoin is currently about a $1 trillion asset, a little more now. At the very least, I think Bitcoin, you have a very easy case to make that Bitcoin is at least digital gold. Like it's probably a lot better than digital gold, but at the very least, it should be the exact same valuation as gold. It's more scarce than gold. It's more divisible than gold. It's more portable than gold. It's arguably more fungible than gold. It's more verifiable than gold. Like evaluating, different monies on their monetary properties, and then you clearly see that Bitcoin is better. Like the only thing that might be worse per se is like Bitcoin has only been around for 15 years and gold's been around for thousands of years. But that's not really a good argument. Like that's just like history and doesn't. It's like if Google exists today and ChatGPT comes out and everyone starts using ChatGPT and ChatGPT starts taking all of the ad revenue, theoretical example, and no one's using Google anymore, then that doesn't mean that like you should still hold all of your wealth in Google. Like you should probably move a lot of your wealth into ChatGPT because they're going to make all of the money starting now. Obviously, that's not a perfect example, but I think it's kind of the same thing with Bitcoin and gold is you have a better technology that exists for saving value into the future. And Bitcoin is, that's what Bitcoin is. And so Bitcoin is probably going to be worth at least the amount of gold. And maybe like the market is inefficient right now and it's taking time to correct to the price of gold or a lot higher. But I think if you look through history, it's like if you are an economist that believes in efficient markets and you think that prices do trend towards their most efficient price, then I think like that's kind of the best argument as to like why Bitcoin has done so well over the last 15 years, because the market is like correcting as aggressively and as fast as possible to the most efficient price that Bitcoin should be trading at. And obviously we have 8 billion humans that are all imperfect and trying to figure out how to allocate capital throughout the world. But the best argument for like Bitcoin and for like efficient markets is like, that's why Bitcoin has a compound annual growth rate of like 100-something% over the last 15 years or whatever it is, because the market is literally trying to correct upwards towards the price of gold or towards 10x the price of gold or whatever it really should be. So I think the models are useful. I think there's even simpler ways to think about it, like just, the comparable from Bitcoin to gold. But I think like at the end of the day, probably a model like Jesse Myers, where he's like pointing out that Bitcoin should take X percentage from real estate, X percentage from gold, X percentage from equities. I think that's probably the best way to think about it. But it's also like the world is going to change so much over the next 20 years that it's going to be very hard to tell like what exactly, with the exact percentage that Bitcoin will be taking from each of those asset classes. So at the end of the day, it's just a guess. My guess is that I'm pretty confident in is that the real price of Bitcoin should be a lot higher than it is today.